What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. So, way back before the pandemic, I believe it was 2019, I was sitting out on my terrace and I recorded a video where I actually did show my face and I spoke about how Disney was going to be doing a live action version of The Little Mermaid and how they had selected Haley Bailey, who is a young black actress. Her and her sister are very popular these days, and they had selected her to be the main character of Ariel in the new Little Mermaid. And I told you that I knew that if they got a little black girl being a Little Mermaid, they're going to make sure that the prince is a white man. And sure enough, months later, when they reported who they had cast to be the prince, it was a white boy. So I was not surprised by that. Okay, because I know how these people maneuver, especially on the liberal side of white supremacy, which is what Disney is made out of these days, anyway. So I've seen a lot of things come out here and there. They've had like the official trailer and maybe like a few scenes of her singing and whatnot. And very recently, some production pictures got released of the Little Mermaid, and it has her riding around in the cart with whoever the guy is who's going to be the prince. There's a couple of other pictures in there where she's hiding in the back of the cart, and I'll be damned if it doesn't look like a slave movie. Okay, and there are a lot of black people online saying that. Like I found a little post of the production pictures put side by side, and yes, it does look like a slave movie. Like when she's hiding in the back of the cart, it looks like she's trying to escape on the, maybe in the Underground Railroad or something like that. It looks very much like that. And I understand that the Little Mermaid takes place in a certain time period during the, colonial time period and the open seas and pirates and sailors and whatnot. Because I think the main character, the prince, is supposed to be a sailor. I don't ask me to remember his name. I don't remember it. But you know, we have to be really careful with stuff like this and real careful when we depend on these larger companies to develop content with us and use our imagery for these films. Now, I understand there's a lot of racist whites out there who don't want to see any black person in any of these films. They want to make sure it stays white, especially, there's this whole thing online where they feel that every redheaded character in film history is being replaced by a person of color, so they really don't like that. And, because, red hair is very genetic. It's a genetic recessive trait that doesn't really exist a lot, even in their own culture. And usually, if a redheaded person mixes with someone else of even European descent, that red hair goes away because, like I said, it's genetic recessive. It's very rare now, especially nowadays. But they don't want to see that happening. They don't want to see themselves erased, not genetically, not visually, and definitely not physically, and definitely not in these films. Okay, but we as a people, and I mean black people, have to be careful with this type of content. Like I saw a video of Haley Bailey. She was just walking through like a park, or I think she was walking through the Disney park, and this little black girl came up to hug her and was so happy to see her and was, just so happy that she's going to be the new Little Mermaid or whatever. You gotta be careful with that, folks. You gotta be careful with that because they'll put a black face in these certain things, but the story and the symbolism surrounding it can be very detrimental, especially to a lot of young black girls. It's already a big push out there to push to young black girls that, they need to be with a white male. Okay, and damn near every social media ad, every media ad, every TV show, you have all these mixed race, interracial couples. You barely see black people together in any capacity anymore, unless it's negative or They might even have, two black homosexuals together or something, right? So you have to be careful with this type of content out there, and you don't want it messing up the minds of your children or your little girls. Truth be told, the original Little Mermaid, the animated one, is not a good story for little girls out there. It doesn't really teach them anything. It doesn't teach them responsibility. That the main character of Ariel is a spoiled brat. Okay, she gets what she wants all through the movie, and she barely even really gets in any trouble. Okay, she still gets to have everything she always wanted. She doesn't really learn anything by the end of that movie. Okay, it doesn't really teach any good, no good moral lessons whatsoever. Animation wise, it's beautiful. Yes, it's a very stunning film. The songs are very well written. I like a lot of the animal characters, like the crab and little fish or whatever. But overall, story wise, it's not a good lesson. And to have a black girl in in that role is going to be very detrimental. I warned you before. Just think about the main song that Ariel sings, like, I want to be a part of that world. Now, that takes on a whole different meaning when you got a little black girl singing that now. Now you got a black girl talking about how she wants to leave where she's from and be a part of this white man's world. You see what I'm saying? You see how warped that is and how that can do damage to young girls? So I would suggest if you have a little girl that wants to see that, you probably, I mean, I don't want to, I don't think you should try to hide things from kids. So even if they see it, you need to still have a talk with them. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to say don't let them see that, but you need to have a real discussion with them about the symbolism in these films and what they're trying, the agendas that they're trying to push. Like if you can do that with your child and give some sort of counterbalance, then I think it's a good thing. Okay, just be careful with the media out there that you let your children consume. All of it, not just the movies, but the mainstream media, the social media, everything. Okay, and always try to have a talk with them about what's real and what's fiction. I've been very proud of my daughter in the fact that she knows that a lot of this stuff is not real. A lot of things that are on TV or on social media or even in these games is not real. Even at a very young age, she got that point. I made sure to drill that into her head that that's all fantasy. That's not reality. Okay, and she understands that very well. Even now that she's a little bit older, she truly understands. And I that's, if there's one good thing I think I've done as a parent, is getting her to understand that this stuff is not real. Okay, that this stuff is purely fantasy. It's fanciful. It's not. This is not something that you need to rely on as reality. Okay, reality is something completely separate, completely different. Don't be fooled by what you see on TV. Okay, or on the computer or on social media or whatever. Even so, I very much monitor the types of programs that she's allowed to watch or the types of games she's allowed to play. And for the most part, she's very good and very disciplined in that regard as to what she'll actually even partake in. So and in that regard, I think I've done somewhat of a decent job. We'll see how things go. The older she gets, like once she gets into that tween and teenager phase, I can have more discussions with her then about what really goes on around the world and American history in particular, so she can truly understand why daddy disagrees with certain things. Okay, and I think that's a good way to look at it, and a good way to do it is to have broader conversations with these pieces, because I can literally take images from this new Little Mermaid film and put them side by side with scenes from the movies like Drum and Mandingo and Roots, and it almost looks like it's the same thing. Okay, just the camera work is a little bit better because it's a more modern film. So, but the imagery is very similar. All right, and I can show side by side where how they view and how they portray these black females in these types of films compared to these white males, and it's disturbing, but once again, it opens up the door for a larger conversation about the relationships. Now, me, I believe that things have not changed since slavery. I think the dynamics and the social interaction between blacks and whites has not changed whatsoever. It's exactly the same as it was during slavery. Don't be fooled by us not being in physical shackles, the way we interact is still the same. Like when I read, if I read something that happened, like a slave narrative or something that happens in even not maybe like post-slavery during the Industrial Revolution, the social interaction is exactly the same. And I mean, it's really not. It wasn't that long ago. My grandmother was a tween age during World War II, and she had grandparents who were actually slaves. So you see that it wasn't that long ago. You see what I'm saying? So for that social interaction has not changed yet. That's why I don't think race relations will change anytime soon in this country, because I mean we haven't had time to really get over it at this point. Okay, that's why we still interact and act the same way. That's why you have so many black people with that slave mind and that slave mentality still groveling up under white folks, and white people still thinking they have the authority and the right to tell us what to do at all times. So I mean, you folks can let me know what you think about it, about this new Little Mermaid film, what you think about these images here as far as how it looks like a slave film, and we can talk more about it as time goes on. I believe the movie comes out next month, so I may be I'll talk more about it as the reviews for the film come in. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back on my foot on these Devil's Back.